There is a little bit of talk about Ten Hag and Ruud Van Nistelrooy, tension growing between him and the other coaches inside United over fear maybe he's there to take Erik Ten Hag's job. What is the story that's come out from Malak of the Mirror? And could there be any truth behind it? Rene Hag has done an interview. Ten Hag let cameras on the training ground yesterday. What has been said about United and what's happening inside the club? There is definitely a lot of tension. Ten Hag's friend actually came out and said that he told Erik Ten Hag to leave after the FA Cup final. There's some tension inside there, and obviously it's heating up at the moment because this Villa game could be Erik Ten Hag's final game as Manchester United manager. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the starting 11 that is expected to play versus Villa tomorrow. We're also going to talk a little bit about the academy. Obi Martin has finally signed and been announced and arrived at the club, and obviously Shea Lacey's return and more. So please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, and let's get into the news. There is some tension between Ten Hag and Van Nistelrooy as speculation has grown that he was recruited by Ineos in the summer to replace Mitchell van der Gaard as he'd be a safer pair of hands should a change of manager be required. A source in Holland said Van Nistelrooy is a principled guy. He felt betrayed at Eindhoven and he will not want to be viewed as the man who went behind Erik's back. So obviously, apparently there's some kind of tension, according to Malak of the Mirror, going on right now in the United training ground that actually, Van Nistelrooy is here because they may use him to replace Ten Hag. Maybe the rumours that Ruud Van Nistelrooy is going to be interim if Ten Hag is sacked is getting to Ten Hag and potentially impacting their relationship. Obviously, Ruud Van Nistelrooy was given manager jobs elsewhere and he rejected it to be assistant at United. Now, I felt that was a really good idea to get Ruud Van Nistelrooy in as an assistant because he's quite experienced. He knows the club. He's a striker coach. He can then do some coaching, but also he is probably someone that you'd rather have as interim than Mitchell van der Gaard if things went wrong. However, I can understand from Ten Hag's perspective, Ruud Van Nistelrooy is there, you're working with him, but that is the guy that's probably going to take your job if you're sacked, and you could be sacked if it goes wrong versus Villa, and you're working with the guy that is probably going to get your job. I can understand because it's coming out all over the media that Ruud Van Nistelrooy will be interim if Ten Hag's sacked. So if you're Rene Hag and you're Ten Hag, I can understand there being tension there, but Ruud Van Nistelrooy himself obviously wants what's best for Manchester United and doesn't want to be seen as a guy that betrayed Ten Hag. He doesn't want to be seen as the guy that went behind Ten Hag's back. He's just there because he wants to be at United. So potentially there could be some tension going on behind the scenes. It was said Ruud Van Nistelrooy will be offered the manager's job on an interim basis if Ten Hag is sacked after Sunday's trip to Villa, although Ruud Van Nistelrooy is worried about being seen as the man that betrayed Ten Hag. So there's probably a little bit of talk going on inside United about how if Ten Hag sacked, Ruud Van Nistelrooy gets the job, and Van Nistelrooy himself is worried he's going to be seen as a traitor, and maybe that's caused a bit of tension between Van Nistelrooy and Ten Hag, which isn't the best situation to be in, considering we want Ruud Van Nistelrooy, Rene Hag and Ten Hag to come up with something to turn it around. That's basically what we want to do. If there is any tension between the coaches, that's probably going to have some kind of impact on how we play on the pitch as well, if there's not togetherness there, if the environment's not there. So I'm hoping that's not the case and there's not too much tension between the coaches inside United. Obviously, Ruud Van Nistelrooy are very worried about being seen as a bit of a traitor. Now, one thing I know about Ruud Van Nistelrooy is he gets on with the Manchester United players a lot better than Mitchell van der Gaard, and the Man United players feel that they can communicate with Ruud Van Nistelrooy a lot better than Mitchell van der Gaard, and I think he was brought in for many reasons. And, Ten Hag agreed to bring in new coaches because he knew training wasn't up to the standards, and Ten Hag agreed to bring in Van Nistelrooy. So maybe it's just the recent rumours have caused some tension. Now, this was also said, which was a bit random. There was a surprise at Old Trafford this week when Ten Hag allowed a Dutch film crew into the club's Carrington ground to film Rene Hag taking a training session. Hag then later gave an interview in which he suggested he was second in command. Hag says, I give all my views on football matters to Erik, and I am the one responsible for planning of training sessions, both physically and tactically. Erik has the final say, but we're working intensely together on the bigger picture. He was then asked about Ruud Van Nistelrooy, and he said, Ruud is very big here, and you can tell that all the time because people recognise him everywhere he goes, and they show respect. But for me, he's a colleague. So could there be some kind of tension with, Ten Hag and Rene Hag versus Ruud Van Nistelrooy? Rene Hag suggesting he's second in command, he does the tactical work, he does this, he does that, so that if Ten Hag sacked, Rene Hag maybe himself believes that maybe he's the guy to take the job because he's suggesting he's second in command. We kept being told that obviously if Ten Hag is sacked, Ruud Van Nistelrooy will come in. He's second in command, he's going to be the interim, but Rene Hag feels that he does more of the tactical this and that, and feels that he could be second in charge. And then just says Ruud's big here, but I see him as a colleague, which is a really random comment to make on him. But I guess we'd have to watch the interview and see it in context there. Now, one thing we do know is it would cost 15 million to sack Ten Hag, which I think is why Ineos are a little reluctant to sack him after so little games, and why he's probably been given the Villa game. I think if it is really bad versus Villa, he's gone. But I think if he shows any potential versus Villa, they will stick with it because they know that they want it to work. Jim Ratcliffe is sort of losing patience with the situation, but those inside Ineos kind of really want it to work. Now, interestingly, we do know there was a possibility that they could sack Ten Hag in the October international break, because apparently we've been courting Inzaghi for months and even reached out to him via phone call recently. Given that the move was impossible at this time, the Inter manager confirms he's happy where he is. The fact that we're calling up other managers, according to reports, is a suggestion that maybe there is a plan in place to sack Ten Hag in the international break, bring Ruud Van Nistelrooy as an interim until they can get an Amorim, a Nagelsmann, an Inzaghi, whoever they want in. It's not going to be Inzaghi. Now, before I get into the Villa game and the lineup ahead of the Villa game, I do want to cover a few stories. So, Man United were 4-0 down to Spurs' under-18s at half-time, and then Shea Lacey comes off the bench and scores 2, and Bianchiri scores a third in the 86th minute. And Man United almost went from 4-0 down to 4-all. They were really, really unlucky to obviously lose to Tottenham Hotspur, which is a shame. But the highlight of that is that Shea Lacey on his return gets 2 goals, is super impactful, and still shows the class, which is what we all want to see. And then talking of sort of class and academy, it has been confirmed on the official website. Nick Cox, director of the academy, has made the signing of Obi Martin official. We welcome the soul, Obi Martin and Overy, who will be part of the professional development phase as well. So that's 3 young players coming, has now been made official. And Obi is now finally having his photos today and been announced as a player. He's finally arrived after what has taken so much time. And I feel like Arsenal have just done their very best attempt to make the whole situation as difficult as possible. But let's get into the Manchester United versus Villa game and what the potential lineup could be for Manchester United versus Villa. Now, we know Onana's going to play in goal and Delow's going to go left back. Now, I would quite like Mazraoui left back, Delow right back, because Mazraoui's too fitted, but I think Delow inverting has actually worked quite well in possession, so I think he will stick with these 2 guys at fullback. Shaw is out to November, Molassi's out to November, and Harry Emerson is being physically fit, so it's these guys, or we have to give Lindelof or Martin as a go at left back. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if one of De Ligt or Martinez was dropped. Now, he does like Lisandro Martinez because of what he does in build-up, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does try something different like Maguire, because he had a good game and De Ligt had a poor game. Now, if I'm going to be totally honest, I think that was just a one-off poor game from Matthijs De Ligt. And I think it was just one of those games which was just a one-off poor game. But he may drop him because Maguire was a lot better. That being said, I think De Ligt has been the better centre-back out of him and Martinez so far this season. I think in the DM role, he does go back with Ugarte. And then I think he will go with Eriksen and Bruno. And I think Casemiro will go back on the bench. I think Maino, the reason I put Maino in there is because I think there's doubts over if Maino is 100% fit. Maybe he's out. He obviously didn't even feature on the bench for the Porto game because he wasn't ready as well. But do you know what I'd quite like to see? And I don't think he'll do it, but I'd like to see Bruno and Mount play together. I think the energy Mount brings to midfield could be beneficial. Højlund did score last game, so I think he will keep his place, if I'm going to be totally honest. Although I do think if you're playing Ahmad, play Højlund. If you're playing Garnacho, play Xerxes. I think Garnacho will play on the right and Rashford will play on the left because they are his 2 favourite wingers and they both had a good game against Villa last time out. So if I was to predict the lineup, I think it would be Bruno, Eriksen, Ugarte. If I was to predict the lineup here, if I was to give you my lineup, I would go with Maino if he was fit, but I don't think he's fit, so I'd go with Mason Mount if he's fit, and then I would go with Amad Diallo here, and then I would probably consider Xerxes if I was going to be totally honest. And then if Bruno has a bad game, then I would just drop Xerxes a little bit deeper, and then I would look to maybe sub on Højlund. Now, I'm hoping Bruno goes back in form. He suddenly did Instagram post about his form when he's not in great form, but that's what I'd probably do myself. I think Garnacho is great off the bench for impact. Now, guys, let me know your lineup down below. Let me know what you do. Let me know your thoughts on this report that there could be a little bit of a fallout going on between, or not really a fallout, more so tension going on between Erik Ten Hag and Ruud Van Nistelrooy. It's a bit of a it could be just a bit of a nonsense report, to be honest, as well. But you know what? It's so important we get 3 points tomorrow, because right now I think we've only got like 2 more points than Everton. We were laughing about Everton and how Everton could get relegated, but I think we're only on 6 points this season. And if, believe it or not, I think Everton are on 5 points. So when you actually look at the table and where we're at and stuff as well, you know, we're not really doing well. We're currently 14th in the table on 7 points. Everton have 5. Leicester have 6. You know, we've only got 1 more point in the relegation, Leicester. We've got less points than Bournemouth. If we win, we go to 10 points, which at least puts us in probably 10th place because of goal difference, and we're equal with the likes of Brentford, but we're really low down the table. You know, if the teams below us start winning a few games, we then go back into the relegation zone, which isn't good. Not that I think we'll get relegated, but still. Thank you for watching. See you next time.